Hey YouTube, Bob here. Welcome to the next edition of my first-party Nintendo Players Guides playlist. This is part 2 of the Super NES guides, where in part 1 you voted for the guides that you wanted to see me take a more detailed look at in this next video. So, as you can see here, the top 3 winners were the Super NES Players Guide, the Mario Mania Players Guide, and then the Earthbound Players Guide, which is kind of interesting because the Super NES guide was probably one of the first, and Earthbound was one of the last. So we're kind of going from beginning to end here. So why don't we start at the beginning? Here we are with the Super NES Player's Guide. Remember, this is of course one of the first ones that I got for the system, and it continues that motif of having the rectangle in the middle with the title. And this one's kind of unique because it has a rather, I guess, tessellation style type cover with a whole bunch of screenshots of the title screens of a lot of the games and some action screenshots. So kind of a unique cover as the guides go. If we flip it around to the back, it says, launch into 16-bit action with an official guided tour of the Super NES. What makes the Super NES super? How is the software library stacking up? What games are in the works? We've packed answers to these and a lot more questions about the Super NES in this comprehensive introduction to the Super NES. Whether you use it as a buyer's guide to the system or a player's guide to the games, find out why this is the only guide you need. And then of course we've got the random arrows motif going on here. Not really sure what that was all about, but there it is. Super game reviews, previews, and more. Grab your controller and get ready for a whole new world of challenge with these Super NES hits. Witness revolutionary Mode 7 tricks like rotation, color layering, and multiple background scrolling that bring a whole new dimension to gameplay. Stereo sound and special effects add incredible realism. Feel the track fly under your wheels with F-Zero, which I think those hover. I don't think they have wheels, but maybe they weren't quite as steeped in F-Zero lore at the time they wrote this, but that's okay. Get vertigo from Pilot Wings. Challenge gigantic enemies in Super R-Type. Check out these great games and more to come right here. So then a list of a lot of the games here that are covered in the guide. So if we open it up, on the inside cover we've got some more of the screenshots with the title screens and the action screens. A nice Super NES controller shining through there in the middle. Then you can see in the table of contents over here, it's divided by game genre. We've got action, adventure, RPG and simulation, sports, and future games. A little bit of a taste of what was to come. And then closing it out with an index. But we're going to start with inside the Super NES. I always loved these types of sections and guides that kind of give you the backstory, maybe about the hardware or development. So it's been several years since I've read through this, so I'm excited to see again what they talked about with the Super NES. So right away we can see we got a nice big picture there of the Super NES with Super Mario World loaded into it. One thing that I noticed when I was a kid is that this version of Super Mario World had the Super Mario World font on the end of the cartridge label there, where we just got a plain turquoise, block lettering label, which was pretty standard for the first-party Super NES games. So, video game evolution with the Super NES. With the coming of the Super NES, video games and video game players may never be the same again. This player's guide introduces you to the first batch of Super NES games, those currently on the market or about to be released. It's the first inside look at the rapidly growing library of titles for the Super NES. You'll see what makes each game special and how the programmers make use of the technological advances offered by the system. You'll also find winning tips and strategies for each of the 39 games reviewed. Programmers around the world have flocked to the Super NES because it allows them great creativity and a broad game-playing audience. The expanded memory and 16-bit processor make PC conversions possible, even where advanced models require enormous calculating power and speed as in SimCity. Superior graphics and smooth animation are essential when converting hit arcade games like Final Fight, and here again the Super NES has the muscle to do the job and do it well. Which it's interesting that they're already touting, the advanced graphics, because we really wouldn't see what the system was fully capable of until Donkey Kong Country would be released about 3 years later in 1994. And it's saying that the Super NES has the muscle to do the job and do it well. I would argue that it does not have the muscle. That's the one thing that it didn't have over the Sega Genesis, was the faster processor. And we saw that a lot in the slowdown in the action that a lot of games, especially the early games, the games in this guide actually, such as Super Castlevania 4 and Super Ghouls and Ghosts, a lot of those early games had slowdown because the Super NES, for whatever reason, probably they chose to have a little bit of a slower processor to up some of the other components within it. But as we all know, just as much as these are game guides, they also are marketing tools. So of course they're going to try to tout the new hardware here. But regardless of those shortcomings, the Super NES hardware certainly was impressive for the time regardless. So it continues on here. Sequels to the favorite NES games have also made the switch to the Super NES, resulting in awe-inspiring titles like Super Mario World and Super Castlevania 4. These games have been improved in every way, from the detail of their graphics to the size and complexity of their worlds. Sports games benefit too. There are more options than ever in games like True Golf Classics, play against the computer or in a tournament, change your view on or track the flight of the ball to analyze your swing. The Super NES sizing and smooth scrolling add a new sense of reality to sports games, especially fast-paced racing and flying games such as F-Zero and Pilot Wings. For a deeper understanding of the technology involved, read the chapter titled Inside the Super NES, which introduces you to the Super NES hardware and explains how Mode 7 and other features are utilized by the games. Even if you don't own a Super NES yet, the Super NES Player's Guide can be a valuable tool. People buy game systems for the games, not the hardware. With the Player's Guide, you can make direct, insightful comparisons of games. Game types are broken down into chapters to make it easy, and each review covers both specialized Super NES features and hot tips to get you into the games like a pro. The Super NES Player's Guide covers the action whether it's on the screen or in the CPU. Enough already, let's get playing. So look for more Nintendo Player's Guides for complete game coverage from the pros. Super NES Player's Guide. So this is a little mini chapter here inside the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, the ultimate game system for the ultimate games. You could say that the Super NES is the unsung hero of this book. If it wasn't for this remarkable machine, none of the outstanding games reviewed in these pages would have been created. For this reason, an introduction to the hardware and its capabilities is appropriate to game players. The Super NES and the Super Famicom, the Japanese version, were created out of Nintendo's desire to provide state-of-the-art platform to support a new generation of super sophisticated video games. Mr. Uemura of Nintendo Company Limited in Japan directed the design of the Super Famicom hardware, which is identical to the Super NES, while Lance Barr at Nintendo of America designed the housing for the Super NES, along with modifications in the controllers and game packs. Their joint efforts resulted in the Super NES as we know it today. And as I've said before in some of my unboxing videos, probably for the Super NES and the Super Famicom, I prefer the design of the Super Famicom to the Super NES by far. I have got some nostalgia for this design, of course, but I think the original Super Famicom design is by far superior. So let's take a look and see what we have here. What this guide does, if I remember correctly, is it kind of touts Super Mario World, because they've got all these Super Mario World showcases, these little inlays here, which is interesting because they didn't need to sell Super Mario World to anybody at the time of the release of this guide, because it was pretty much packaged with every Super Nintendo console for almost the first year that it was on the market. So I think they're just kind of showing or comparing a game that all Super NES owners were familiar with at the time and showing how these specs of the Super NES, such as Mode 7 and the 8-channel stereo sound, were used in a game. So this SMW Showcase is what that's all about here. So it talks about color layering, shifting palettes, the Mode 7 effects where things kind of shrink and grow. Lots of different effects here. So if we continue on here, does this chapter continue? A little bit. Exploring new depths, the layering, it kind of shows how they got the, like in Super Mario World, the transparent layers where there'd be enemies and then a couple different background layers to give depth to the games. We saw that also in Super Castlevania 4 with the fence in the first stage here. So the action category here, that's the first one up. And something that's interesting is for a lot of the games that they mention in each of these categories, you've got Final Fight, Super Mario World, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, they try to make a real-world connection here. A little bit of an educational touch here to this Super NES Player's Guide. So, of course, we're going to start off with Super Mario World. This game gets some of the biggest coverage here in this guide. So we just kind of thumb through. It gives you almost a walkthrough of not the entire game necessarily, because you can see how they've got just a little bit of a very short blurb for each area of the game here, and it's not even every single area, because there is another guide, Mario Mania, that's going to deal with Super Mario World in depth, but they still go through into quite a bit of depth here for Super Mario World. And then they treat each other game with a similar treatment here. We got Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Give you some basic information, kind of instruction manual style, but then they give you some tips and tricks as well, and take you through a little bit of a walkthrough of the stages and descriptions of the enemies and weapons as well. So I can remember flipping through this guide as a kid, just looking at these screenshots and being in awe at the detail of the 16-bit graphics at the time. So yeah, quite a few pages for each game. And again, you can see it's taking you through the stages here. And we go on to Castlevania 4, Super Castlevania 4. A little bit of a history, the legend of Castlevania so far. Super Castlevania 4, I think, slow down aside, was by far one of the most impressive of the launch games for the Super NES. Absolutely amazing, especially the music. I love the soundtrack of that game. Here we got a little bit of a walkthrough. Illustrated, not necessarily screenshots here. We've seen that in some of the other players' guides that we've been taking a look at. But it's like the action games here in this first section of the guide are getting quite a detailed treatment here, which is nice. Then once I get to the latter stages, it goes more to text. Then Final Fight, and it continues on. So we see this treatment throughout a lot of the guide here. As you can see the different color codes there. It looks like the red section, which is the action section, the Super NES was quite heavy on action games early in its lifespan. So again, here's a visual for that. You can see about how many different games are featured here in each section. So definitely action takes it. Pages 7 through 68. So quite a bit of coverage there for that genre of game. So not too much will be different as we go through and see games of other genres. Here's Final Fantasy II. Take a look at, see how many pages Final Fantasy II got, because I would argue that at the time of release, this is probably one of the most in-depth games on the console here. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8 whole pages for Final Fantasy II. And then Pilotwings is not nearly as in-depth of a game, so let's see how many pages this got. 2, 4, 6. And it got 6. So 2 pages less, but however, Pilotwings was one of Nintendo's first-party games, so of course they wanted to give it quite a bit of coverage there. So that's how this guide is laid out, and we got the Shoot Me the Big Picture Nintendo Power subscription card here, and then showing some of the other guides that you could get for, is it for free here? And my free Nintendo Player's Guide, yeah. So at the time, 24 issues over 2 years for $30 plus your free Player's Guide, or 12 issues for $15. So interesting. No savings necessarily there if you opt for 2 years over the 1 year, but you did get your Player's Guide. Interesting. Yes, this is how we did it. No internet. Didn't use the internet to sign up for things. You had to mail in this card. And yeah, you had to put it in an envelope too. So before we move on to our next guide, I thought we'd take a look at least the cover page for each of the sections of this guide. So we already saw the one for the action games, which alluded to some real-life connections between the topics of the games. Here's the one for adventure, referring to ActRaiser, Wanderers from Ys, and Zelda 3. The one for RPG and simulation makes connections with Final Fantasy II, Pilotwings, Populous, and SimCity. And the one for sports makes connections with F-Zero, Super Off-Road, True Golf Classics, Super Tennis, and Hale's Hole-in-One Golf. And then the final section here, future games. Let's see how they, what kind of treatment they gave the future games. Looks like each game got half of a page here. Some screenshots and then just a brief synopsis there of what it would be about. So 4, 8, 12, 16 new games taking a look at there. And then this game pack index here, which is really kind of cool, interesting information. Let's do ActRaiser first. It gives you the name of the publisher, the developer, how many players, if there's a save option, battery or password, and then the power meter rating there. That is the rating that Nintendo Power Magazine gave it. So looks like we got, let's see, graphics, play control, challenge, and theme and fun. And it looks like we're on a 4-point scale. And then the game category, and then the page in this guide where it got some coverage. So that is the first Super NES Player's Guide. Gave us quite a bit of insight into lots of games that had already been released in that launch window, and then some titles that were to come. The next one, Mario Mania, this guide's a little bit different because it's not just about the Super Mario World game. There's actually a whole section prior to the player's guide for that game that just talks a lot about anything and everything a 12-year-old would want to know about Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario World, the history and everything. So this guide says the secrets of Super Mario World plus a whole lot more about Mario, only from Nintendo. So kind of a neat cover background there. Interesting that they put a screenshot of Super Mario World there, but it is largely covered up. So if we go to the back here, finally Nintendo unveils the inside story on Mario. This is the only place to find it. Now for the first time, Nintendo is packing everything you've always wanted to know about Mario and more into this just can't put it down player's guide. From his first days battling Donkey Kong to his first 4 NES hits to a gigantic special on Super Mario World, this is the complete story of the superhero who has kept his fans in the fast lane of video games for a decade of fun. Little known facts, one-of-a-kind tips, and more. It's all right here. Don't miss it. Mario's creator, Luigi, the other brother, profiles of friends and enemies, surprising cameo appearances. Plus a 140-page Super Mario World extravaganza, the ultimate review. This is the only in-depth guide to Mario's new Super NES hit written by the pros at Nintendo. Don't play Super Mario World without it. Secret one-up techniques, Super Mariology, facts like how to go into a cape-controlled float, how fast can Mario run, maps of all levels, 74 at last count, and a whole lot more. So yeah, this guide had, even though it's essentially just a guide for Super Mario World, it has a whole lot more information about Mario. So first chapter there, Meet Mario. You can see it goes for 30 pages there, pages 3 to 33, then where Super Mario World starts. So then it goes on and goes through each of the different areas of the game, and of course gives a little bit of background. So here is the opening, or the front cover, I believe, yeah, without the title in the way. Interesting, they still kind of obstruct that screenshot with an M from Mario's hat. So let's take a look and see the Meet Mario chapter. Nice full page of art there. We got Super Mario Brothers 3, Super Mario World, Dr. Mario, Super Mario Brothers 3 again, maybe Super Mario Brothers 1 or 2, and then of course Donkey Kong. So let's see. The Many Worlds of Mario. Welcome to the Many Worlds of Mario. In this book, you'll have a chance to learn all about Nintendo's world-famous video game hero. How he got his start, he wasn't always the hero, what makes him so appealing to all ages and nationalities. After an exploration of Mario the character, we turn to an in-depth look at Mario's latest and most extraordinary video game, Super Mario World for the Super NES. Why report on a video game character? We think there are several excellent reasons. Video games are a phenomenon of our time, and characters who inhabit our favorite video games become part of our culture. Mario is the best example of how popular a video game character can become. The Brooklyn plumber with the funny mustache is fondly recognized around the world. Part of that popularity comes from the excellence of the games in which Mario appears, but some of it is because of his character. That of a feisty but determined fellow who might stomp a meddling Koopa but would never hurt an innocent flea. Over the past 10 years, the character of Mario has become linked to the company that created him as both a mascot and an ambassador for Nintendo. The special relationship between Mario and Nintendo is emphasized every time a new Mario game appears because Nintendo showcases the latest advances in programming techniques and technology with Super Mario games. This has never been more true as it is with the simultaneous introduction of Super Mario World and the Super NES. The depth of play and challenge in this game is a direct result of programmers taking advantage of all the new technology allows. What that means for Nintendo Power is a chance to present the vast new world that is absolutely bursting with secrets and tips. This book contains the most intense look ever at one game. We have included more than 130 pages of maps, charts, tips, tricks on Super Mario World. All in all, we think you'll find this a fascinating exploration, from an exclusive interview with Mario's creator to a fun look at Mario's many roles in the video game world. So that's exactly what the first half of the Mario Mania Player's Guide is all about. A little bit of blurb about Meet Mario. Got a little bit of his anatomy there, kind of tongue-in-cheek. Starring roles, going through a little bit of the chronology there of the games that he had been in up until this point. Continuation of that, and then cameos where the Mario character has appeared in other games that weren't necessarily formal Super Mario titles. And then his brother gets some treatment too. A little bit of anatomy of Luigi there. Details about player number 2. Best friends and worst enemies, goes through some of the pantheon of the Super Mario characters. Continues on for quite a few pages there with big old Bowser, King of the Koopas, right in the middle. And then Donkey Kong Jr., Mario Brothers, a nod to the original arcade games where Mario got his start. And then it looks like each game is also going to get a little bit of a treatment here. Got some box art, some screenshots, information about the game. Same deal for Super Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario Brothers 3, Super Mario Land and Dr. Mario. Looks like these titles are getting a one-page treatment, but still got the box art. Unique that Dr. Mario is released on 2 platforms, both the NES and the Game Boy. And then all of the merchandise, some of the early merchandise here. Some of the I didn't care for the early merchandise a lot because he didn't have a uniform look yet. All the merchandise that's produced now kind of, has a similar look, but all of that was still in development at this point. So they had different artists do a lot of the different merchandise. So sometimes, yeah, it looked like Mario and Luigi that I knew, and other times it didn't. These are all pretty good examples of merchandise here, where everything is fairly uniform, but there were some pieces of merchandise where I was like, oh my gosh, who drew this? Does not look like what I know. Talking a little bit about the cartoons, Super Mario Brothers Super Show, Super Mario Brothers 3 cartoon, and talking about the Super Mario Brothers movie, which I have never and will never see. The man behind Mario, a little bit of interview with Shigeru Miyamoto. Let me see here. There is something that I wanted to bring up. Maybe it's It's on the second page here. There it is. Okay. This had me hanging on the edge of my seat as like a 12-year-old for I don't know how long, probably about a year. What's in the future for Mario? Miyamoto says, I don't know if there will be another game in the Super Mario series, but I can tell you there is something special in the works. So, oh my god, something special in the works. What could it be? And at the time that this was released in 1991, the special thing in the works most likely was either Mario Paint or Super Mario Kart. Because, of course, there wouldn't be another... they did brand Yoshi's Island as a Super Mario game, but it really wasn't. So that one didn't come out until like 1995 or 1996. I think it was 1995. So that was about 4 years away. So, yeah, that something special in the works was probably Mario Paint or Super Mario Kart in retrospect. But I remember, oh my god, what's in the works? I can't wait. So this guide here has a fold-out map, I believe, giving a little bit of a history of Dinosaur Island. There was once a peaceful land far, far away where playful dinosaurs danced and fair princesses frolicked. So you open it up here and you got your map of Super Mario World, Dinosaur Island. So you got a legend to interpret the map, screenshots of all the different areas, which continue on over here as well. So I love it when these guides include fold-out posters. You just got to be careful to fold them back, otherwise you're going to end up with creases on the edges here. Not always the easiest feat, but there we go. So continuing on, now we've kind of broken through to the Super Mario World Player's Guide portion of this book. The cape is, of course, the biggest addition here, which unfortunately was game-breaking. If you become skilled at flying with the cape, which isn't all that difficult, you can bypass entire stages. So that kind of breaks the game, in my opinion, but it still works. You just got to have the discipline not to do it and to go through the stages like you're supposed to. So talking a lot about the play control here, the different items that there are, the cycle of items, different bonus stages that there are, the goalposts at the end of the stages, and then of course the bestiary here of all the enemies in the game with a little bit of a description here. Pretty cool. So yeah, the full page art continues here, I believe. Maybe with each section. This is for Yoshi's Island, I believe, the very first area. Yep. So let's take a look at those, since we don't really have the time to go through each section. Let's at least take a look at the full page art they have. So this would be for Donut Plains, where you first get the cape, which is pretty cool. And the next one up here would be Vanilla Dome. A lot of underground areas here. Here's Blarg and the Swoopers, and it's Buzzy Beetles in other games. I don't really remember the turtle's name in this game. I don't think he's a Buzzy Beetle in this game, but we got Blarg and Swoopers. Let's see, next area. Cheese Bridge, yep, with the infamous saws. Love this art here. Full page art. Forest of Illusion is next up. Wiggler, Babam, and the Goombas and the Bubbles. Angry Wiggler. We got Choco Island with the Dino Rhino and the Dino Torches. And Valley of Bowser with the Mecha Koopas and the Bowser and his big balloon there. So then that leaves Star World and Special World. Let's see what we got. There's Star World. Mario on a blue Yoshi that can fly. Got the baby Yoshis, each one colored. Color-coded for go along with the different worlds. And then finally Special World there. Oh god, Special World. Got some Rexes and some Cheep Cheeps, Koopas, and then the Bonsai Bills or Bullet Bills. So really cool to see this full page art in this guide. That's one of my favorite features of it. But yeah, of course, super in-depth, anything and everything you could ever want to know about Super Mario World and the Mario series in general to this point in the Mario Mania Player's Guide. So that brings us to the last one. We've got Earthbound. So this guide was unique in that it was packaged, at least in the United States, with every copy of Earthbound. And that's why Earthbound came in such a big box to accommodate this guide. And I think I've recounted this story before back at Best Buy, probably around 1997, 1998. I saw stacks of this game, you know, from the floor, probably about, I don't know, 6-7 feet high of unsold copies. And I think they were selling them for $25 a piece. And had I known, I would have bought almost every copy that they have, because this game has really skyrocketed in popularity here. So this is the guide, and if you're going to collect the guide, if you're going to go after it, there's something you need to know about it that's included with it, and you want to be sure that your copy of it still has intact, but we'll get to that. So this says the complete guide to Earthbound, straight from the pros at Nintendo. Got a nice cover here with some of the kind of clay modeling. That was the original aesthetic of this game. So let's take a look at the back here. This one's a little bit different. It breaks with the design motif of a lot of the other Super NES game guides. It says, great pizza, new friends, world travel, free daily newspaper, and an alien megalomaniac await you. Welcome to Annette, the first destination on your itinerary and the site of an authentic meteorite crash. You'll find the people of Annette are most obliging and keen to show you a good time. Unless, of course, you run into someone or something that has been taken over by an evil interstellar dweller who hitched a ride into town on the aforementioned meteorite. This alien, however, will undoubtedly add your journey by giving you the personal reward of saving the planet Earth while enjoying the ultimate vacation. With Earthbound Player's Guide in hand, you'll have all the information you need to ensure an exhilarating, exciting, and memorable visit to many fascinating places. Savor the sophisticated amenities of city life in Forside, including the fabulous Dinosaur Museum and the Grand Department Store. Capture the spirit of adventure in Dusty Dunes Desert. Now, we've seen that before, or we will see that in a Mario game, Dusty Dunes. I think it's in the Galaxy game, where you'll meet a real old-time gold miner. Drop down into the town of Winters and Lake Tess for a chance to see the famed sea serpent Tessie instead of Nessie. Follow in the footsteps of history through Stonehenge and the Great Pyramids. Meet some real strangers in Saturn Valley. Then hit the beach in beautiful resort town of Summers. Throughout your journey, keep the player's guide handy at all times so you know what to see, the best places to eat, whom to meet, and what to look for and what to watch out for, like zombies, kid dicing kitchen implements, dinosaurs, bugs, and other undesirables. This comprehensive reference with everything from maps to items to monsters will ensure an incredibly exciting and stimulating trip. Plus, the worthy and humanitarian experience of saving the Earth from the outrageous space invader Gygus. Fun adventure and philanthropy. Now, who could ask for anything more? So, here's Earthbound. Open it up here. Warning, please carefully read the consumer information and precautions booklet included with the product before using your Nintendo hardware system, game pack, or accessory. That's the first time I've seen that in a player's guide. I wonder if we'll see that more as we go through the N64 and GameCube guides. But it says, thank you for selecting Earthbound for your Super Nintendo Entertainment System. How very NES instruction manual like of them to include that here. You always got notes of thanks in the instruction manuals for NES games. Please read the following instructions thoroughly to ensure the proper handling and use of your new game. Please save this manual and strategy guide for future reference. There we go. That's why. I forgot that I already told you that this was included in the game. It's also the manual for the game. So no need to, if you're going to include this with every game, no need to have two pieces of literature in there. Just the player's guide and manual will do in one package. So warning, if power switch is switched on and off repeatedly, the accumulated contents of your Super NES cartridge may be deleted. Avoid turning the power switch off unnecessarily before saving the game, or data may be lost. That kind of makes me laugh. If the power switch is switched on and off repeatedly, so that would mean that somebody was going like this to the power switch. And warnings like this exist because things like that happen. So apparently some kid just did this enough times and lost their game and wrote to Nintendo about it, to where Nintendo wanted to put that warning in there. So, welcome to Earthbound. Can 4 average kids save the world from certain destruction at the hands of an evil alien invader? They might be inexperienced, but don't count them out. The 4 spunky kids have the fate of mankind in their hands and the weight of the world on their shoulders, so it's a good thing they have psychic powers and you on their side. As you begin this unique gaming experience and explore the world in search of the sinister spirit of Gygus, pack along our travel guide. You'll need it to find your way through Earthbound's twisted and hilarious world, and you won't want to miss a single side trip or pass up any sights along the way. Just remember to phone dear old mom and dad after all. The kids wander a long way from home. So yeah, that begins the instruction manual / strategy guide for Earthbound. And I had a feeling that Nintendo decided to go this route because, as we know, there were Earthbound or Mother games that were released in Japan, but not in the United States. Because at this point, when the game was released in about, let me vet this, I'm going to say 97. No, 95. It was earlier than that. In 1995, RPGs or JRPG style games, they were just not quite as popular in the United States, so Nintendo really wanted to hold the US gamers' hands and provide as much support as possible. So I think with Earthbound, that support came in the form of just give them a player's guide along with the game. They're gonna need it. But that's no longer the case now, because JRPGs and different types of RPGs are very popular in the United States. Probably still not as much as in Japan, but they are more popular here than they were back when this game was released. So let's take a look at the contents here. We got the manual, pages 4 through 12, and then the contents for the strategy guide. We got strategy and charts. It looks like those are the 2 main sections here, going through the different areas of the game and the different tasks. Love these screenshots. Those are really nice. So let's take a look at what the manual portion has. Controller functions. Starting the game. If you can play the game in stereo. If your Super NES is hooked up to a stereo television or your television is connected to a stereo, you can take advantage of the stereo sound effects in Earthbound by selecting stereo. If you can't, you should select mono to be sure you hear all the sound effects. Yeah, because then it channels them all in one. Okay. Interesting. Never really seen that in any other instruction manuals for games. So, going through the different characters here. Ness, Paula, Jeff, Pooh. Decisions. Going through the interface here. How to fight. Battle screen and command window. And then, of course, before you go on your way, they give you a couple of hints about how to handle different things in the game. And then we are thrust into the travel guide or player's guide portion of the book. So, oh, that's nice. We'll go from white pages to full color pages here. Calling Earth. A little bit of a story here. Also narrated in the game as well. Onet Times. Here's the newspaper. Got some real life pictures here, which is kind of a nice touch. You don't see that very often. Nice pieced together screenshot of Onet. Love the claymation or clay figures here. It's a really nice aesthetic. I enjoy that. So yeah, it looks like we got... This game focuses more on actual screenshots of the areas. I'm not seeing illustrations, so that's actually pretty cool. So enemies of the area. Going on to Tucson. Yeah, there's lots of detail in each page, way more detail than we have time to go into here. But I just want to give you a taste of what the guide has to offer. So we're not even halfway through yet, so I'll take us a little bit quicker here to the end of the guide and just kind of, yeah, the format hasn't changed a whole lot, just super detailed descriptions of the areas and what to do. And I really do like the just the mix of different media here with the claymation characters and then the real-life photographs. And then here it looks like, now it looks like that's more of an illustration for the map. So they do a mix of actual screenshots and illustrations. So yeah, you can see this this strategy guide / instruction manual is really well done, which is definitely to be expected. But if you are going to go and look for it to add to your collection, you want to make sure that it includes the scratch and sniff character cards here. So it does say scratch here, scratch here. I'm not going to scratch just because, you know, I'm a collector and I don't want to damage anything. But they are scented, and some of them, if I remember correctly, were not all that pleasant. So, but you just want to make sure that this page of cards is intact. It would be the very last page of the guide here. So I imagine a lot of them exist where this page has been torn out. So if you're looking for this guide, definitely make sure it's included. Alright, so that wraps it up for the second and final part of the Super NES Player's Guide review. I want to thank you for tuning in. The next one in this series will be the N64 guide, so be looking for that video and more content on my channel. But until then, take care. Thanks again for watching, and you'll catch me in the next one. Bye-bye.